when I was 22, I ran like a half marathon in like 119 or 118, something like that. And there is no way I could imagine myself running 222 for a marathon on that day. And when I ran 237, even though I had hopes of switching over for an OTQ, I realized I was going to have to cut. At the time, it was 219 was the standard that I was going to have to cut, 18 minutes off. And now I just have 3 minutes to go. And I don't know, I just always have seen so much of progression in my training, even if I haven't gotten the result and it ended in a 100-mile DNF or a blow up to a 237 marathon because I couldn't finish the OTQ on that day. But yeah, I truly believe I'll be faster at 40 than when I am at 27.
Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspects of running and what helps people to achieve success, however they define it, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. We are psyched to announce a new partner of the podcast, Lauren Daniels. Lauren is a realtor helping buyers and sellers in the greater Denver and Boulder area and beyond, and has been a good friend of mine for a few years now. When I decided I wanted to buy a place in Boulder and put down roots here, I was completely overwhelmed by the home buying process. Lauren was already a good friend, so when we first talked about home buying, I felt a huge sense of relief. She's a neighborhood expert, has an incredible attention to detail, available for any and all questions, and made what could be a very difficult process super easy. And now we've got a beautiful home in Boulder. It's close to the trails with a big backyard for Alfie and views of the Flatirons. So if you're even considering buying a home in the area or anywhere, I highly recommend working with Lauren. You can reach her at ldaniels@milehighmodern.com and let her know we sent you. That's ldaniels@milehighmodern.com. Thanks so much to Lauren for supporting the podcast and helping us continue to grow, and for all those miles together. We're so excited to announce a new partnership with our friends over at SaltStick Electrolytes. SaltStick was founded by a PhD chemist who also just happened to be a professional runner and triathlete. Their products are specifically designed to mirror the electrolyte ratios that you lose in sweat. As many of you know, and I've talked about on this podcast, I'm a salty sweater. That's right, I said it again. I'll say it again, salty sweater. And I need hydration products that help me replenish my salt and all the other goodies that I lose in my sweat. So that's why I'm stoked to work with SaltStick. SaltStick has capsules, drink mix powders, and fast chews. Remember sweet tarts? Yeah, fast chews are like that, but for electrolytes. Fun and functional, and that's what we like to see. Head on over to Elite Nutrition to check them out and use code FTLR for 20% off your first order. By supporting SaltStick, you're not only going to step up your hydration game, but you're also supporting the show. That's ALETE nutrition.com and code FTLR. We are proud to share that this episode is sponsored by our friends over at Puma. Here at For the Long Run podcast, we're fans of Puma and have been really impressed with their efforts to support and foster the running community. We're excited to partner with a brand that has such a rich history in sports and that cares deeply about the running community. Puma believes that sometimes all it takes is a spark to make a change, to get motivated, or to try something new or hard. And we couldn't agree more. All we need is that small spark, and the actions will follow to get us there. With that small flicker, anything is possible. Puma running shoes offers supreme cushioning, superior propulsion, comfort, and lightweight technology. I've been running in the DV8 Nitro First Mile, and I love how it has a focus on sustainability. The shoe feels amazing, and even better, it's in collaboration with First Mile. It's made from at least 20% recycled material, as First Mile's focus is on cutting down plastic waste in production and in the supply chain by finding innovative ways to get recycled plastic into products like Puma running shoes. Check out a pair for yourself at puma.com and use the code FORTHELONGRUN for 20% off any Puma Run or Train products. When you support Puma, you support me and the rest of the For the Long Run podcast team. Thanks again to Puma for sponsoring us. And welcome back. I have Taggart Van Etten joining me on the podcast today. Taggart, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Yo, I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for finally having me. And it's nice to meet you virtually.
Likewise. And the third time was not the charm on this one. We are fourth attempt at getting the audio going. So it's great to hear you and without you sounding like a robot.
Yeah, for sure. It was messing with my ears, just the echoing going on because I was trying to talk and then I'd hear myself and I was like, I don't know. It was different, but hey, we're going now.
The joys of virtual podcasting. The first 50 episodes of this podcast were all in person, pretty much mostly in Boulder, Colorado, Lake Tahoe, or San Francisco. Many of them now are still in Boulder, but they're virtual. Anyway, I digress on complaining about digital culture in 2023. First question: who is Taggart?
Ooh, I am a fiance. I work for Amazon. I would consider myself a runner. I don't know what type of runner. I would probably say just kind of an endurance junkie and just a really fun person.
And a voracious tweeter.
Yeah, yes. I like to mix it up on Twitter. So
if you don't follow Taggart on Twitter, you should. And you're a pretty speedy runner, and you've taken a lot of big swings, which I think is more interesting than the pure speed in general. I've talked at length with Peter Bromka, who has been on a similar quest of chasing the OTQ and getting dangerously close to it. And I find this pursuit of something super fascinating. We're going to get into all of that, but I'm interested in your backstory as a runner and how you found running or how running found you. What does that story look like?
yeah, I'll just give you the quick rundown. No pun intended there. I started track
Pun
and
is
cross country.
always intended.
Pun is intended. Okay. I started track and cross country when I was like 17, towards the end of high school. I didn't run in college. I did triathlons up until I was like 23. A lot of people don't really know this because they see me online and they think I was some like speedy dude in college. But like my first marathon was in like 2:54 in 2019. So like I was a really good triathlete, swimming, cycling, running, and then after my 2:54, I had ran a 2:37 like a few weeks later, and I had made the decision to switch from tries to marathons because the OTQ cycle was supposed to happen in 2020. Well, COVID hit, and then the only race I could sign up for was a 100-mile race, and that was at Tunnel Hill, where 9 months later I ran 12:19, which was amazing. It was probably the happiest day of my life, one of the happiest days. And then 6 months later, I broke the treadmill world record for 100 miles where I ran 11:32. And since that treadmill run, I haven't had a lot of ultra success. I've had a few little course records here and there. I've had a lot of 100-mile DNFs, but then with the OTQ cycle officially opening in 2021, I switched gears again back to the marathon in pursuit of the sub 2:18. So now here I am on attempt number 4, going to be 5 at grandma's in June. And yeah, that's kind of the quick one right there.
There's a lot to unpack there. The desire to run 100 miles on a treadmill, let alone do it quickly. Well, I guess everyone who runs on a treadmill wants to do it quickly so that it's over, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So the only race you could sign up for was a 100-miler at the start of COVID.
Yeah, it was in November 2020. There was only like 100 people allowed. We were all spaced out by like 10, 15-minute starts. It was very like low key, the race was.
And had you done an ultra before that?
No, tunnel. Well, I had done ultras in training, but I've never done an official one. So I did like a 50-mile time trial, like 10 weeks out from Tunnel Hill. And then when I went to Tunnel Hill, that's my first ultra sign up result was the 100. So
what was that like, standing on the start line, doing something that was twice what you'd ever done before, and even more than that in a race setting?
Well, just like I said, it was pretty low key. So there were only 9 other guys starting with me. I mean, all of those 9 other guys eventually I think ran under 13:30 to me. So I took first, like I said, 12:19. And I think probably the 10th guy was around 13 and a half or 14 hours. So all those guys were pretty fast. I just kind of saw it as a day. Like it wasn't really a race. It was just kind of like me pacing myself up until the last 20, 25 miles of the race. I was like, I'm prepared. I've done all the training, and it was just kind of like a big long run adventure day where I just jogged and ate food until it really started to hurt.
And then you just kept doing that.
Yeah. It was pretty much eat something every 30 minutes, take a swig of water or a Gatorade every 10 minutes and repeat. That was it.
So I'm still so curious about like, okay, it was the only race available. A lot of people would have just said, okay, I'm just going to train and not, try my luck at a 100-miler without, doing a 50K first or a 50-mile. What was it about that event or that adventure day that you were just like, all right, I'm going to do this?
Well, this was before I really knew anything about ultra. It wasn't until probably a few weeks before when I discovered that like Tunnel Hill was like the place for flat ultra runners. And Tunnel Hill is only like 4 hours from my house, so it just made sense for me to like do this. So it made sense for me if I were to do an ultra to do that ultra because there were no other road races, there were no other ultras that were available to sign up for, and I figured I kind of knew in the back of my mind that someday I'd want to do 100, but I figured I would do it in my 40s or 50s and I would do one and just be done with it. But I was like, well, I guess if there's ever a time, there's probably not going to be any spring marathon. So if I have to like waste my entire body for 2 months worth, I'll just do it now and just recover and then be ready by the summertime. And yeah.
Okay, so you said it was one of your best days ever. What about it made it so good?
Oh, just everything went to plan. I had set out to beat Zach Bitter's course record in 12:08, and I nearly did it. And when you're 24 and you're able to pull off a pretty good 100-miler like that, and for myself, the only prior run result I had that was respectable was a 2:37 marathon, which is fast. I mean, 2:37 is very quick, but to be able to pull that off on my first try and just walk away with nearly a course record. And I don't know, it was just a lot of things that tied up into it that made me feel awesome over it.
Have you unpacked what led to that result?
It was a lot of training. I was running very big volume into it. I had probably 5 months of between 140 to 170 miles a week, probably about an average of 150. A lot of, I mean, it wasn't like hard interval training, but it was a lot of trying to get as efficient at 7-minute mile pace as I could. If I could go back, I'd probably change a few things. I don't think I needed quite that volume, but I do think that volume like helped me build the confidence and and like knowing that when I was on the starting line that I did absolutely every little thing to prepare because I had no idea what ultra marathoners do because I was coming from a triathlon background and I didn't even know what Western States was when I signed up and ran Tunnel Hill. Like I had to find that out like a month after that, what this entire world of ultra was.
And what sort of unlock or big reveal was that when you realized like what was behind the curtain with ultra running?
Yeah, it was like a new world to me. Just like I said, I'd been so deep into triathlon for 5 years, and I kind of knew road running, but not too much. We all have our nicks, and like there's the road racers, there's the trail racers, the ultra, the triathletes, the cyclists, and I've just never been exposed to the whole ultra world until after Tunnel Hill when people started getting a hold of me over it, and I started doing my own research.
So time passes and you're like, all right, I'm gonna run 100 miles on a treadmill. Where did that idea come about?
So originally, I was going to run the U.S. 100K National Championships in April, but that was canceled or it was brought down to only 50K because of COVID. So I was like weighing my options. I wanted to run another at least 100K, if not 100-mile race before I went back to marathons. And I found out the 100-mile treadmill world record was I think at the time it was Zach's. It was either 12:09 or 12:10. It was something like that. It was very quick. And I was like, well, if I can get a sub 12 here, then that could set me up for something even faster later on. So I just kind of made this event where throughout the day I had it at a local bar and grill where hundreds of people came in, and I just sat on the treadmill for 11 and a half hours. And yeah, then I was thankful and lucky enough to pull off ultra number 2, which was the treadmill record for 100 miles at, and like I said, 11 hours, 32 minutes.
What was the name of that bar?
It's called Seasons Gastropub. It's literally probably a half mile down my house. It's my local watering hole I go to on the weekend. So it's a great place.
Were there people there that didn't know what was going on? They're like, why the hell is this dude on a treadmill?
So I'd say probably 90% of the people were there for me, but I felt bad because it was during my town's like prom time. So like there were kids in there all dressed up in their tuxes and their dresses, like, and there for a nice like prom meal. And they're probably like, what is happening over there? Why is that guy sweaty, shirtless? And everyone's yelling and blasting music for this guy over on a treadmill in a nice place to eat. But that's neither here nor there.
I'm just trying to think of like what I would think if I walked into a restaurant and someone was shirtless running on a treadmill, and then I ate my meal and he was still there.
Yeah, I think maybe eventually they like put out a sign out front like, hey, this event's going on here, blah blah blah. But I mean, the owner of the place fully supported me. The people who gave the treadmills fully supported me. So it's not like it was just randomly popped out of nowhere. I was able to wheel my treadmill into a business and just run for 12 hours. I mean, this entire day took months to plan out. So
amazing. Okay, let's talk marathons.
Cool.
What is it you love about the marathon?
Ooh. With the marathon, it was definitely a change of pace for me. I got a little burnt out on the ultra stuff. That's my own doing there. The marathon's really cool because, there's so many different races across the country you can do with the marathon. And, I think that's probably the main thing. Again, and then with like competition, as far as every endurance sport, the marathon is probably the deepest running competition, I'd say, out of even ultra, the track events, just everything in general. The marathon is probably the absolute hardest to be good at because that's what everyone shoots for.
Do you like the competitive nature of it, or is it internal, external? What about the aspect of competition gets you going?
Yeah, I'm really good friends with a lot of people, but when I'm out there on course, if you're my best friend, like I'm trying to get inside your head. I'm trying to beat you. I don't want anyone to beat me when I'm out there, but before and afterwards we can be best friends. But yeah, I just really enjoy the whole grind of just physically racing another human, and chasing a time is cool, but I definitely think I'm more of a racer. I don't know.
So you certainly have been chasing a time. Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the Olympic trial standard. I have to run 218.00 or 217.59. It's certainly been harder than what I expected. In the fall of 2021, a few months after my treadmill record, I had ran 222 off of basically 2 months of marathon training and like a year and a half of 100-mile training. And after I ran that 222, they came out with the standard a month later that said 218. I was like, oh, well, 218, I can do 6 months of marathon training and hit that on the dot. But I found out the hard way a few times now that even though I've respected the distance of a marathon, I haven't respected that pace for a marathon, if that makes sense. It probably really took me my probably not this past race in Houston, but in the California International Marathon, when I was like, wow, I really need to like understand like how hard this actually is for me. So.
And the pace is what, 5:12?
It's 5:15, 5:16. 2:18 on the dot is 5:16, so you just got to be a hair under that. So
that's it's just a hair over my mile PR. So I've got some work to do.
It is a blistering quick pace, especially for someone like me, who I don't know. I just I'm probably more built for ultra marathon than I am 26 miles.
So why do you keep swinging at it?
I mean, why not? I've got the rest of my life to do whatever I want in ultra or anything else. It's just been nice to have a new goal to shoot for, and until December of this year, I will just be going for it. And even if I don't hit the 218, which I think I will in the next race, I don't want to look back and be like, oh, I probably should have left Ultra for a year or something like that to chase that OTQ, because I've talked to a few Ultra runners who are very respectable quick. And some of them have told me that, like, hey, you are young. You should probably, just work on some marathon speed. And that's what I've been doing. So it's fun.
I like the public display of goals. I'm a big fan of Shalane Flanagan's for many reasons, but one of them is she has a line, or she's basically said, share your goal, bring people with you, and grow as a result of it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to hit the goal, but you have to take these swings and you have to put yourself out there. And the combination of taking a big swing and doing it publicly is not for everyone. And I find the way that you do it particularly interesting. It's like a respectful confidence of what you're trying to do with that public aspect of it. I've talked at length on this podcast much earlier on, not lately, about the men's versus women's OTQ journey, chasing, etc. I find that there are so many more interesting women chasing the OTQ than men doing it, both purely from a volume standpoint of like simply the number of people in the race, but also like what we see on the internet. I'm curious your thoughts on that, with the sort of caveat that you are one of those guys that is sharing your journey, like Peter, and like I can't name that many others. I think Tommy Rivs was doing it for a while prior to his experience in 2020 and 2021 and recovery from what he's been going through. But I'm wondering what your take on it is, as someone who's in it and is sharing it publicly and is relatable in that, like, you didn't take one swing and hit a home run. It's like it's an ongoing process for you.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that either. That is kind of strange, but I do agree with you that there does seem to be more women going for it than men. So just kind of like I said, kind of rolling back a little bit, I like wasn't a college stud who ran 14, 15 for 5K or something like that. Maybe for some guys, they think because they couldn't run XYZ time at 21, 22 that they can't get to marathon time at ABC at 25, 26. Yeah, I could definitely tell when I raced Indy and CIM that there were more women there than there was men for the OTQ. Yeah, I really don't know. I can't give you any insight on that one, because I mean, I'm pretty new in the whole marathon scene myself. So
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's something as I mentioned, I've talked about at length with Peter, and it's either way. I'm curious why, or if you've thought about how public you are with your goals and the chasing of this dream.
yeah, I don't know. I just it doesn't bother me. A lot of people probably see me now, who I am online or whatever, and think that I just randomly started doing that one day, when that's always kind of been my personality since I was like a little kid. Honestly, everything from training to doing stuff like that. If you talk to my closest friends from when I was little, my family, my mom, my childhood best friends, they're just like, yeah, that's Taggart. Like yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
And you're doing it with a full-time job, with a fiance, and there's a lot more on your plate than just running. How do you juggle all of it?
Recently I took a position working from home. Before, I was a PE teacher and I coached sports. I'll have to say, I think I have it easier than most people with a full-time career. Again, yes, I am engaged, but I don't have kids. I don't have to go to the office. I don't have to go to school anymore. I can start runs a lot later in the morning. I can sneak out at noon. I can go at 4:30. I'm very grateful for that. But I've kind of said this before on a different podcast. In my opinion, and this might be very controversial, but I don't find a lot of inspiration from professional runners. I find inspiration from people who are the moms, the dads that are sneaking out at like 4 or 5 a.m. to get in, a couple miles before the kids wake up, or going out after dinner at 7 p.m. I've just always seen it as there are so many more people in this world that are able to go hit the BQ, hit a 5K personal best, just do whatever they want in their running endeavors that have it a lot harder than me. So my life can be very hard, and I don't have any excuses, because just like I said, I thankfully now work from home, and my fiance fully supports my dreams. My mom and my best friends do. So it's I don't really consider it a burden by any means.
If you've been enjoying this podcast and can spare 90 seconds of your time today, can you do me a favor? Can you pop over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review? It helps other people find and enjoy the podcast too. Thanks so much. Is it a good market to buy a home in? What about to sell a home? What even goes on in the housing market? How do you even keep track? Well, good news for you. You don't have to know all the answers if you're interested in buying or selling your home, because you can just work with the best realtor around, Lauren Daniels. Whether you're thinking of buying or selling your home, Lauren is your go-to. She treats every client with care and helps make what could be a very scary process, dare I say, fun. Lauren helps you get organized and stay on top of important deadlines, and guides you towards the right home for you instead of pushing you towards something that doesn't feel right. Even if you're not ready yet, or you're not in the Denver or Boulder area, we highly recommend following Lauren on Instagram, because she's always sharing great information about the housing market. Give her a follow at lauren.in.colorado on Instagram. And if you're already ready to start the conversation, give her a shout at ldaniels@milehighmodern.com and let her know we sent you. That's ldaniels@milehighmodern.com. Thank you to SaltStick for sponsoring this episode of For the Long Run podcast. If you deal with muscle cramps, fatigue, or just general dehydration, check out SaltStick's suite of products to help you replenish what you lose in your sweat during those long workouts on the road or on the trail. Whether you're a fan of capsules, powders, or chewables, you'll find awesome flavors and plenty of hydration with SaltStick. And remember, friends who hydrate and replenish electrolytes stay together. And that's what this podcast is all about. We're stoked to be partnered with a company that's backed by science and helps us stay hydrated and healthy for the long run. So head on over to ALETEnutrition.com to check them out and use code FTLR for 20% off your first order. Thanks again to SaltStick for supporting the show. This episode of For the Long Run podcast is sponsored by Puma. For 75 years, Puma has been pushing sports and culture forward with innovative design and development. We are honored to have Puma supporting this show and supporting the running community at large. My greatest compliment for running shoe is, I didn't think about it once. The purpose of having the right gear is to enable you to do anything you want out there. When I'm running in Puma's Deviate Nitro First Mile, all I'm thinking about is literally anything else. I think about the community. I think about why trying hard things is so rewarding. I think about how cute Alfie is. And I think about how much I love tacos. And I think about the big things like how I want to leave each place I inhabit better than I found it. You know what I'm not thinking about? What's on my feet. And that's the best thing about Puma running shoes. They're designed to help you get out there effortlessly, so you don't have to worry about what's on your feet. Just need to worry about putting one foot in front of the other. Check out a pair for yourself at puma.com and use the code FORTHELONGRUN, all one word, for 20% off. Again, when you support Puma, you're supporting me and the rest of the podcast team. Thanks again to Puma for supporting us. I love that. I feel the same way sometimes. I work from home. I have a flexible situation as long as there's not a meeting scheduled, and it's
Exactly.
sort of like a get your work done type environment with asynchronous work, where like I run at 9 a.m., but I'm also working at 6 p.m. sometimes, or 4 p.m. because it's Mountain Time to Eastern Time.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it's like you've got the hand you're dealt, and play it. And right now we're both in this environment where we can it's flexible and might as well use that to our advantage. I am curious about the aspect of swinging and missing. And you said you don't draw a lot of motivation from professional athletes, but more so everyday people who have jobs and chase BQs and whatnot. I think a component of relatability is struggle and not being super successful all the time. I was on a run this morning with Kara Goucher, and Kara is coming back from, or not coming back from, managing dystonia, where she can't, she has trouble running, for lack of better explanation, and has mostly been only able to run on soft dirt. Kara is an Olympian, and she's trained with some of the best athletes in the world who have won medals, and she's made her career running. And we were talking about like the storytelling aspect of where she's at now. And I'm like, look, you're more relatable than ever. And we were talking about this like dynamic between influencers and professional athletes, and where brands are spending money. And at the end of our run, I was like, she ran on pavement today for the first time since the Tokyo Olympics, when she ran on pavement in Tokyo. And that was August of 2021. And right now it's February of 2023. So it's been quite a while. So she ran a half mile on pavement, and I was like, do you want a photo of this? Like, it's kind of cool thing to remember and to share. And so she shared it, and it's so cool to see the feedback from the people that follow her, who totally know that she's been to the Olympics, but today her Olympics might have been running a half mile on pavement at an 8-minute pace. And so the reason I bring that story up is the aspect of relatability. Failure is relatable. Swinging and missing is relatable. I'm not calling CAM or Houston a failure by any means, but the specific time goal was obviously not achieved. First, I'm curious your relationship with the word failure as it may relate to the word success, and then I have a bunch of other things I'm curious about following up on after that.
I don't know. I'm not afraid to fall flat on my face. I don't know. In high school, I had a coach who basically told me you could be upset or bothered for something for about 20 minutes afterwards, and you kind of had to move on with your life. And I've just kind of taken that and ran with that in my running stuff and in my professional life. There's been times where when I was 22, 23, I got laid off from my first like big boy job in quotation, but I had to move on from that. With running, I don't know. At the very end of the day, I mean, does this all really matter? I don't know. It'd be cool to run the OTQ, but I've just never really been afraid of failure in my life at all.
The question of does it really matter is one that I love talking about, right? Because in isolation, running is a stupid, ridiculous
it is
endeavor, right? Like we are sleeping in bed, our alarm goes off earlier than is required. We get up, we take a couple of poops, we drink something, we eat something, and we go out and get uncomfortable for 30 to 90 minutes a day.
Yeah.
It's completely optional and completely ridiculous if if you think about it. And so to me, the whole thing is like, what is the meaning that it adds to your life? So that's the question. What is the meaning that it adds to your life?
Well, I kind of right before we get into that, I actually told my sister a few weeks ago, I was like, running causes all of the problems in my life. I probably would not have a single issue if I just went out every day and jogged 5 miles, and I could probably be content with my entire life like that. Just going out, getting in 30 to 40 minutes in the morning and just being done. But anyway, back to your question. It's probably just like the pursuit of pushing myself, I suppose. I really enjoy seeing progress from, just like how my body's able to get faster, stronger. and all that stuff. And I think I really just enjoy the routine of exercise and training. I just got done taking some time off from running. I took 2 weeks off, and I was biking like a madman on Zwift. And I told my fiance, I said, when the day comes when I'm able to be done competing, I'm like, I'll still probably be doing some sort of training regimen. Probably nothing like strict or hard, but I mean, I'll still be getting in, like I said, 4 to 8 miles in the morning, maybe a Zwift ride in the afternoons, 30, 40 minutes there. It's just, I do really enjoy like the whole routine of exercise and just feeling good afterwards. I don't know. That's probably part of an answer to your question there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's one of the reasons that I love running. It's the sandbox to experiment and try something and see if it works, and then build confidence in other aspects of your life. The piece you mentioned about just like pushing yourself, that to me, that's where there's so much carryover, right? Like I work at a what could be considered a startup, what could be considered a larger or growing company, and it's an exercise in like setting big goals and striving to achieve it, right? Like you can't train
Exactly.
for 100-mile race in one day. You can't run an OTQ in one training cycle. You can't, do your job overnight. It's just like day in, day out. Check the box, check the box, check the box. And I'm a broken record with the aspect of like, or the thought that endurance athletes make the best employees, because we're humbled on a regular basis and we're taught on a regular basis that anything worthwhile is, 10,000 hours type endeavor.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's just, doing your job every day. Whether your job is, running that day, doing some sort of strength training, doing some sort of cross training to recover, and just kind of, I don't know. I really enjoy like going back and, for example, pretty much every morning with my morning coffee, I go through my Training Peaks data, and I look at like this day in 2016, this day 2017, 2018, 2019, and I just look back and I think, wow, you are crazy for like actually doing that, and just kind of going back and doing some reflection over, I've worked out on this day every day now for 6, 7 years, and I've got it down, and I think that's something really cool to do for myself at least.
For sure. I love looking back and seeing how things have progressed, or it's like,
Yeah.
wow, I ran that fast and that on that
Yeah, on
run
that day.
4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the aspects that enables continued success and growth and healthy running is nutrition and hydration. And you introduced me to a now sponsor of the podcast, SaltStick. I got my sweat test done last summer and learned I was a super salty sweater, and was told by a dietitian, like, consume a lot more salt and you will feel better, you'll recover faster, your GI issues may get better, all these different things. And I've loved this product. Again, they are a sponsor of the podcast, but I only promote and work with brands that I love. I love this product because it is like exactly what my body needs. When you're training hard, you need to replace it. Talk to me about your relationship in working with brands and what that has enabled for you.
Yeah, I'll just start with SaltStick. So I was like buying I was buying SaltStick for my ultra marathon training, and then finally one day I just reached out and they were willing to partner with me. And since then I've been very good at taking my caps and my chews and all that. And probably the best part of it is like it doesn't have like any added sugar into it. And there are so many like electrolyte drinks where you look on the label and it's like, oh, there's 14 grams of added sugar. And, I try not to be a stickler on everything, but I'm like, man, this is probably about the best I can do for clean electrolyte calories. So yeah, it's been a godsend to have them behind my back. And yeah, hopefully for this year and more years to come, even when I go back to ultra, they hopefully continue to partner with me. And I drink the drink mix every day. I've got this bottle right here that I do 3 scoops of lemon lime drink mix after every morning run, and then like before interval sessions and before bigger runs, I'll take caps also before and afterwards, because I just like to be topped off with electrolytes.
Cool. I gotta have a dietitian on here to dive deeper into the mechanics of why it works and why it makes sense. But
Hmm.
again, it's fascinating the counterintuitiveness of some of what we do. Right when
Hmm.
I first got into running, I'm friendly with the Detroit Red Wings dietitian Lisa McDowell, and we were chatting about this is probably 2014. I was a very new runner at the time. I was skipping sugar. I was trying to eat paleo. I was doing all of the things that like you think you should be doing,
Yeah.
not eating
Hmm.
carbs, like basically making all of the mistakes. And Lisa was like, you need to eat more, consume more caffeine and consume more sugar and think about hydration. And so it's just fascinating that like nobody teaches us what to do and
Yeah.
what's right. So anyway, I definitely feel like I want to have a dietitian on here to dive into the nitty gritty of sports nutrition, because so much of it is counterintuitive. It's like eat more carbs, consume more sugar, and take in more salt, or don't be afraid of salt,
Yeah.
and achieve better results. And your
Hmm.
testosterone goes up, and your performance goes up, and all this stuff. That's yeah. Um, so is that the only brand you work with?
So I am also sponsored by Matrix Fitness, which is Matrix was the treadmill that I ran on. Yeah, so they after the treadmill world record, they reached out to me, and we started a partnership. And I tell people I'll never be, I'm very grateful to have both of them. Both companies support my dreams, and I'm thankful that I'm not tied down to any like shoe or apparel, because I can wear whatever I want for that. And I know where my place stands in the grand scheme of things. If I were to run under 218 or under 219, I will never be a sub 210 guy. But thankfully, both SaltStick and Matrix support me enough to where I can comfortably just keep on my quest. So I'm grateful for both of them.
So you mentioned shoes. Does that mean you want to talk about carbon?
Sure. So yeah, sure. We can talk about how carbon fiber plated shoes are cheating, and how a third of running Twitter thinks carbs aren't good sources of fuel or caffeine is not. If you want to, that's totally up to you, though.
I think we need to dial in Emma Cortez if we're gonna attack those first two topics. Talk to me about your thoughts on carbon plated shoes.
Yeah, I love them. Every workout I'm running in the Nike Alpha Fly. Every race I'm running in the Alpha Fly. Like I said, there are probably throughout the year, there's probably a total of 3 workouts I don't run in a carbon fiber plated shoe. If I know it can be a very expensive hobby to continually to work out in those, because I know as runners, we like, most people like to say them as races, but if you can afford to dish out the extra few bucks to have a pair in training and a pair in racing, I just think that that will help you get faster, help you recover. It's helped me run so many more miles, so many more quicker miles, that I know my competitors are using it in their workouts. So it'd be me putting even more of a disadvantage on myself if I did not wear them.
Fair enough, but it's still cheating, right?
According to some people on running Twitter, sure. Yeah.
So you're relatively new-ish in the sport. You're relatively young in the sport. Um, let's fast forward to a 35-year-old version of yourself. What is that version of Taggart very, very, very proud of?
Ooh, I think that guy will be proud of the first 2 100s I did. Hopefully in OTQ, either this cycle or next cycle. And probably just more more thankful and more proud of continually still being on the grind because I don't know, I just have this weird feeling honestly that I think I'm going to be even faster at 40 than what I am at 27 for some reason. Yeah, I don't know exactly what I'll be doing then. I do like to, kind of bounce around every few years and switch it up. I've even thought about even potentially someday going back to triathlon and pursuing Ironman. That's kind of a pipe dream, but I could see it happening. I don't really know. I just kind of like to do the different endurance sports races from running to ultra to try and yeah.
So you think you'll be faster at 40 than you are today? What are the things that will be required in order to enable that?
Just consistent training of 100 miles a week, staying healthy, just continually doing my job every day. Cross training, trying to make 5 minute mile pace feel as easy as it can. And it is very hard to make it feel easy. Um, when I was 22, I ran like a half marathon in like 119 or 118, something like that. And there is no way I could imagine myself running 222 for a marathon on that day. And when I ran 237, even though I had hopes of switching over for an OTQ, I realized I was going to have to cut. At the time, it was 219 was the standard that I was going to have to cut, 18 minutes off. And now I just have 3 minutes to go. And I don't know. I just always have seen so much of progression in my training, even if I haven't gotten the result and it ended in a 100-mile DNF or a blow up to a 237 marathon because I couldn't finish the OTQ on that day. But yeah, I truly believe I'll be faster at 40 than what I am at 27.
Very cool. Can we get a Taggart hot take?
Yeah, sure. You can ask me anything.
What is your hot take of the day?
Ooh, hot take of the day. Well, I kind of told you the one about how I don't find professional runners very inspiring. Hot take of the day. So I've been doing a lot of reading over Jakob Ingebrigtsen's like double threshold days. And like that sounds really cool. And I just heard a podcast over Woody Kincaid doing stuff like that. And I think it's fake. I don't know. Like if you go back to guys who were successful, I just kind of think it's one of those things to where like, yeah, double threshold days work for let's say double threshold days work for 30 very good professional athletes. Well, there's probably 300 very good professional athletes that have never done a double threshold day in their life. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an exercise physiologist, but I think it's going to be one of those things where like, if it works for you, cool. If not, I'd rather just work out again 2 days later and run a little harder on my workouts.
Makes sense. So how are you dictating your training? Are you working with a coach or are you piecing it together yourself?
Yeah, I've been piecing it together myself a little bit. I've worked with CJ Albertson. I know you had him on the pod a while ago. I listened to that one. So
that was a fun conversation. I've never had anyone disagree with what I've said more.
CJ is definitely his own guy. I've been doing some work with him. I use Training Peaks to help me like determine like my form and everything. For those who are listening who know what Training Peaks are, they can probably understand. But it helps me deal with training stress. So I know, like for example, tomorrow will be a recovery day, and then the next day, Thursday, would be a harder day, and Saturday would be a harder day. So I've been using that since I was like 22 to develop fitness and just tapering, peaking, making sure I'm not injured and stuff like that.
Very cool. Taggart, it's been a blast. Where can we find you on your corner of the internet for those who don't follow you yet?
Well, I am on Instagram. I'm not very too active on there. You can follow me on there. There's nothing too exciting. My training's on Strava. Please do not add me on Facebook. That's for my friends and family. And probably lastly, the best is you can give me a follow on Twitter where I try to really ruffle the feathers of running Twitter. So
Can confirm you do a great job of that.
You do too, though. You do too.
Thank you. Yeah, opinions are a dime a dozen on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Taggart, appreciate it, and again, thank you for the connection to SaltStick, and hopefully more people can focus on their proper fueling and hydration this spring and summer.
Yeah, for sure. We need to get something set up with SaltStick for your listeners on here, and figure if they can get some salty sweaters and get the electrolytes replenished for them too. So
there we go. Cool. Thanks so much, and we'll see you out there.
Sounds good. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next time on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too. This podcast and the accompanying music has been produced by Brian Walters of Single Track Sound. For the Long Run's logo was created by Vanessa Wolf of Sterling Wolf. Show notes have been written by Ruby Wiles and is managed by Emily Holland. It takes a village.